Hello everyone and welcome to Flickering Myth TV. My name is EJ Marino and we are diving in to a new documentary today. Oh boy, I am so excited to talk about You Cannot Kill David Arquette. Now, when I went into watching this screener, I was really excited because I'm a big fan of David Arquette. I'm from the 90s. I love Scream. I was a WCW fan. So he has been a presence in my life for quite some time. And I'm so happy that this documentary was so well made, so powerful, so emotional. There was so much in this to enjoy, but it is a fun ride, but it is a sad ride as well. This has so many layers to it. I truly think You Cannot Kill David Arquette is one of the best documentaries of the year just for what it does for wrestling, just what it does for like his career. This is such a big milestone, and not just David Arquette's career, but the whole idea of making wrestling mainstream again, and this is a good way of doing it. I'm just so excited to dive into this documentary. So if you may not know, David Arquette, the actor who was in the Scream movies, Eight-Legged Freaks, he was a wrestler, or at least was in a wrestling storyline in the late 90s and the early 2000s. He had made that movie Ready to Rumble. He's also like a WCW champion. But the wrestling industry did not respect him. They saw him as an outsider coming in and taking jobs, going to like the biggest belt ever and winning it. A lot of people were upset with him, and he's had to live with that for quite some time. David Arquette has also had a very strange life with divorces, addictions. He's just had a journey. But now, when we start the documentary, I think it's around 2018, he is trying to get back into wrestling, but seriously this time. He wants to prove himself. He wants to basically say, I'm sorry for what happened in the 90s and the 2000s, and I want to make it up to you guys by giving you my blood, sweat, and tears to make this a reality. And he does. The whole journey of this documentary is so wild. There's just so much emotion that happens, just from seeing his ex-wife Courtney Cox to meeting his new wife to seeing how bad he feels about what happened in the WCW and what got all the wrestling fans to hate him, to his actual journey as a wrestler. It gets brutal. This documentary has just so much to offer, and it's just such an entertaining viewing. I was just kind of amazed the whole time that he was allowing himself to be depicted so candidly. I was just kind of blown away at the whole vibe of this and how it depicted wrestling, how it depicted Hollywood, how it depicted the fans of both of those industries. It's a really well-made documentary. I was expecting to enjoy it, but I didn't think it would hit me as hard as it did. As much as I enjoyed it, there was moments that I just thought were very hard to watch. There is the late actor Luke Perry, who's featured in this. There is a death match that David Arquette is in that leads to a serious injury. There's also watching David Arquette kind of ignore his doctors and his wife's wishes to not do this, to live his dream. So there's a lot of just sad, emotional moments in here that really just kind of weigh it down, and not in a bad way, but you're at such high highs with having fun watching him train. My favorite moment is when he's in Mexico and we get to see him try out the luchador style. We get to see him do that Mexican street wrestling that went viral. We get to see all of those moments and enjoy them, but they remind you that this is a very real thing. We have a guy who's nearing 50 trying to make it into wrestling with a body that's been abused before that. There's a lot in here that you're like, this is a tough film. It feels in a way, it reminds me of that movie, The Wrestler, with Mickey Rourke that came out a couple years ago. It has a candid look at wrestling, but I don't think it's looking down at wrestling. You could tell David Arquette very much respects it, and even if he isn't handling it in the best light, they show a lot of the, how matches are made, they show a lot of the blading stuff, so they do kind of show you some of the inside stuff that would piss people off, but in general, I think he loves wrestling and just wants to do a big I'm sorry, and you feel that weight on his shoulders, and by the end of the movie, I think that weight is lifted. I don't want to spoil anything, because you could just easily Google all of this and see what was happening, but overall, I just think by the end of it, you see his arc is fulfilled. You see that he feels happy with what he's presented as a wrestler now. I look at David Arquette as a wrestler slash actor. That is hard. Like, I'm a big wrestling fan. I'm a big fan of Hollywood and movies and all that. So to see someone who's kind of transitioned to both and kind of bounced back and forth, I think that's really impressive. No, he's not on the scale of The Rock as an actor or as a wrestler, but he's really trying to prove himself, and we see it through these emotional moments throughout this documentary. Now, something I've been thinking about since the documentary wrapped is how would non-wrestling fans feel about this? If you're just watching it because you like to see documentaries, or if you're a fan of David Arquette but not the wrestling side, what would you take from this? Because this has a lot of wrestling talk. This has a lot of wrestlers featured. I mean, so many independent stars, like RJ City, who's a major point. He was a big deal of getting David Arquette to the level he is now. When a lot of the old timers wouldn't respect him, I see a guy like RJ City go, let's have fun with this. Let's get it. And I love seeing that. But we also have Jungle Boy, who is the son of the late Luke Perry in this as well. We see like Nick Gage, who's a crazy deathmatch wrestler. Oh boy, that Nick Gage segment in this movie is tough to watch. But we also have DDP, who is famous for being a wrestler, but also famous for transforming so many lives. I love seeing all these cameos. I mean, oh my god, Eric Bischoff. Eric damn Bischoff is in this documentary talking about what he did in WCW, but overall just giving like David his feelings of like, oh, you're going to try to be a wrestler now? Okay. Yeah, I just think this works really well for wrestling fans, but I'm curious to see how this would play for non-wrestling fans. Would this work? Does this speak to you? Does this hit you as hard as like a lot of people? Like, I am a big wrestling fan, so this really works for me. So I'm curious, if you happen to see this or you're interested in seeing this, but you're not a wrestling fan, what draws you to this? What is it about it? And hopefully, if you're not a fan of wrestling, but you see this, I want you to see all the blood, sweat, and tears that people pour into this industry that is just so real. And you don't have to like wrestling, but after seeing this, please appreciate it. Maybe not deathmatch wrestling, which I love wrestling. Deathmatch stuff is not my stuff, and oh my god, the deathmatch segment in this, David Arquette does a deathmatch, which if you don't know is a little bit more of a violent, extreme kind of stuff, like light tubes, tables, it gets crazy. He's in one of those matches, and it's a tough scene to watch, but overall I really like what this has to offer, and I think this could like kind of sucker in new fans and make them wrestling fans after watching this. We see David Arquette's daughter Coco, who is not a fan of wrestling but goes to one wrestling show and is sucked into the vibe. I hope this documentary gives them the same vibe as well, of being like, I don't know what this crazy world is, but I want to be in it. You Cannot Kill David Arquette is surprisingly one of the best movies I've seen this year. It really hit me emotionally, more than some full-on feature films with all the budgets in the world. There's just something about this movie that spoke to me as a wrestling fan and as a fan of just watching somebody try to prove themselves in any industry. This is a hell of a documentary, and I highly recommend it. You can see it in the drive-ins, and also you can see it on video on demand in about a week since this comes out. If it's already if this is already like past the date of the 28th, definitely check this out as soon as you can. I highly recommend this. Alright guys, what do you guys think of this review? What do you guys think of You Cannot Kill David Arquette? Is anyone a David Arquette fan? I happen to absolutely love him, and Patricia, and Rosanna, and the late, like, Alexis Arquette. This is a family of people I enjoy watching, so I want to know what you guys think. Comment down below, subscribe to Flickering Myth, because we make videos like this every single week, and give me a thumbs up if you did enjoy this video. Alright guys, let's talk about this crazy documentary down below.